Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take, well, a mountain of information and give you the perfect shortcut to being well informed. Today, we are unlocking a country that is, I think, too often mentioned only as a kind of footnote to its neighbors. Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, but which really deserves the spotlight entirely on its own. We are going deep into Laos.
Laos, yeah. Officially, the Lao PDR,
Yeah.
People's Democratic Republic. It's frequently described as Southeast Asia's hidden gem, and you know what? That title is absolutely earned.
Hidden gem, I like that.
Yeah, if you are seeking a spectacular, truly untouched nature, a really deeply entrenched culture, and genuinely the most relaxed, sort of unhurried atmosphere in the region,
Right.
this is your destination.
Okay, so our mission today isn't just about giving you the standard travel guide checklist, right?
Right.
We want to provide the crucial knowledge for understanding the Lao way of life, because that seems to be the defining feature of any journey there.
Absolutely. Our sources, they consistently show that visiting Laos is an experience rooted in tradition, definitely in patience, and yeah, a significantly slower pace of life.
It sounds like a real contrast for modern travelers.
It presents an amazing duality, actually. On one hand, you're encountering this legacy of the ancient kingdom of Lanzhou,
Which means?
which translates wonderfully to the kingdom of a million elephants under the white parasol. It's a history stretching way back to the 14th century.
Wow, million elephants, that's evocative.
Isn't it? But then on the other hand, you're witnessing a country that's, well, in the throes of massive, really rapid modern infrastructure development. A lot of this happening primarily since 2020.
Okay, so that tension, history versus
Yeah.
high-speed change.
Exactly. And this deep dive will really try to analyze the friction between those two realities.
Okay, let's unpack this then, maybe starting with the foundational stuff. Geography, the pace of the country, I feel like that context is essential before we get into logistics later.
Yeah, good idea. What's crucial to grasp, first off, is that Laos is completely landlocked.
Right, no coastline at all.
None. It's centrally located, right in the heart of the mainland Southeast Asian peninsula. It shares these really extensive borders with Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, and significantly China up to the north.
And being landlocked, that must have consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Historically, it's shaped its economic challenges, its trade routes, and it's also contributed to a relatively more isolated culture compared to its coastal neighbors who had ports and maritime trade.
And geographically, it's mountains, right? I picture mountains when I think of Laos.
You're spot on. The country is intensely rugged, very mountainous, and that directly contributes to its pristine natural state.
It protects it, in a way.
It does. The consensus is that Laos is incredibly lush. About 40% of the country remains covered by trees, and they've dedicated 20 national protected areas to conservation. That's a huge commitment.
That is significant.
It is. However, we do need to contextualize its political and economic standing. It's the Lao People's Democratic Republic, the LAO-PDR.
Okay.
And the irony is that despite this immense natural wealth and beauty, Laos remains one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia. It has a history marked by conflict.
The Vietnam War era, you mean?
Specifically, the period of the Second Indochina War, yeah. Laos was heavily involved, tragically so, and that left an enduring legacy of struggle and also unexploded ordnance, UXO, which is something we absolutely must discuss later. It's a critical safety point.
Okay, got it. So that history, that geography, it feels like the perfect foundation to understand the cultural core. You mentioned it's deeply traditional.
Profoundly Buddhist. Our sources estimate maybe 66%, maybe even more, of the population adheres to Theravada Buddhism.
Okay.
And this religious devotion, it really permeates the social structure, the architecture you see everywhere, and most importantly for visitors, the expected etiquette.
How does that translate day to day?
Well, this religious background translates directly into a culture that is inherently reserved, deeply polite, and generally very welcoming. And this brings us to, I think, the single most important concept for any traveler to adopt there.
Which is?
Bapanyang.
Bapanyang. Okay, say
Oh.
more. It sounds gentle.
It is, effectively. It basically means no worries or no problem in Lao. And it's like the unofficial social operating system. It's all about maintaining social harmony.
So how does that no worries attitude actually play out?
It manifests as this pervasive kindness, real friendliness, and remarkably high levels of personal honesty among locals. We found consistent reports, really consistent, stating that Laos is perceived as one of the safest countries for travelers in the region.
Safer then.
Well, compared to some other regional tourist hubs, there are remarkably minimal instances of scams or, overt dishonesty reported. This high degree of social trust, It makes the travel experience incredibly peaceful. You feel safe.
That sounds amazing. The beautiful, inviting side of Bop and Yang Yang. But, as you kind of alluded to earlier, this philosophical approach, it must have a necessary flip side, right? Something that might frustrate visitors who arrive with, say, Western expectations of efficiency.
That's the reality. That's Lao time.
Ah, Lao time. I've heard of similar concepts elsewhere, yeah.
Yeah. Because the culture actively avoids friction and rushing, things just move at a decidedly slower pace. And this is critical for logistics, for planning your travel.
Like what specifically?
We're talking about public transport that, well, likely isn't going to leave precisely on schedule, services that might take longer than you anticipate, administrative processes like getting a visa maybe, that require immense patience.
Okay, I can immediately imagine that cultural friction. If I'm a traveler on a tight schedule, trying to pack everything in and my bus is an hour late, how does my reaction, my impatience, impact things?
It impacts it completely. The moment a traveler loses patience, shows anger, or tries to aggressively, speed up a transaction or demand
So
efficiency,
you're breaking the code.
you are violating that core cultural norm of Bop and Yang Yang. That kind of emotional display is highly frowned upon. It's seen as losing face, not just for you, the traveler, but also for the person you're interacting with. It creates disharmony.
So the advice is...
You must consciously surrender your schedule. You have to embrace the slow pace. If you fight Lao time, you lose. Simple as that.
Wow. Okay. That context sets the stage perfectly for talking about modern development, because a lot of people still have this image of Laos as being completely remote, maybe just jungle.
Right, stuck in the past.
Yeah, but the country has undergone a massive shift in connectivity, especially since 2020, you said.
It really has changed dramatically. The government has prioritized modernizing infrastructure. We're seeing the construction of the country's first proper highway systems, a constant upgrade of secondary roads, especially around key economic corridors.
But the real game changer, the thing everyone talks about now, and maybe the source of that cultural friction you mentioned, it's the Lao-China high-speed railway, isn't it?
Absolutely. This isn't some marginal addition. This is a state-of-the-art railway, and it runs right through the heart of the main tourist triangle. Connecting the capital, Vientiane, with Vang Vieng, the adventure hub, and Luang Prabang, the cultural heart. And it extends all the way up to the Chinese border at a town called Botan.
And the impact on travel time.
It's huge. Before this railway, that journey, say, Vientiane to Luang Prabang, could easily take 10, maybe 12 hours by bus on these winding, sometimes treacherous mountain roads.
Right.
The train cuts that travel time down to roughly 3.5 hours. It completely redefines internal logistics for tourists and locals alike.
It sounds incredibly efficient, like modern hyper-efficiency dropped right into the middle of Lao time.
That's exactly what it is.
So if the railway itself is so efficient, why do sources say booking it can still be a logistical challenge? It seems like the perfect collision point between those two cultures we talked about.
It absolutely is the collision point. The railway operates efficiently, yes. But the booking process, that's still constrained by the Lao system. Meaning travelers generally cannot just walk up on the day of travel and buy a ticket. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Tickets usually have to be purchased several days in advance.
Why is that? Do they sell out that fast?
They sell out instantly, yeah. Primarily because there's a limited number of daily trains, and there seems to be some kind of quota system in place. And crucially, as a foreigner, trying to purchase the ticket directly from the station yourself, it's often difficult. There are language barriers, bureaucracy. It can be confusing.
So what's the practical solution for a traveler? How do you actually get a ticket?
The workaround, the practical reality, is using local travel agencies.
Okay.
You almost always have to rely on third-party agencies. Maybe your guest house can help, or there are dedicated booking services in the tourist areas to procure the tickets for you, often at a slight premium and definitely several days ahead of your planned travel date.
So that required reliance on intermediaries, the need for foresight. That sounds like a classic manifestation of Lao time, imposing itself on the modern speed of this Chinese-built infrastructure.
Exactly. You can travel fast, physically, on the train,
Yeah,
but you absolutely must plan slow.
that's a great summary. Okay, beyond the railway, what about general connectivity? Is Laos still a place where you kind of have to disconnect, go off-grid?
Quite the opposite, surprisingly. Internet connectivity, particularly if you grab a local SIM card, Unitel is often recommended, is consistently described as surprisingly fast and cheap.
Really? Better than?
Sometimes superior to the service in neighboring, arguably wealthier countries. It's certainly fast enough these days to support remote work, video calls, that kind of thing. You can stay connected if you want to.
And as further proof that Laos is moving away from that purely remote image, we've seen the arrival of some big global names recently, right?
Yes, definitely. The recent appearance of international chains, things like Starbucks and 7-Eleven,
Hmm.
particularly in the major city centers like Vientiane, it signals a clear shift. It shows growing globalization and increasing economic connection to the outside world. It's really not the remote, disconnected nation it might have been 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, fascinating. Let's move our focus then to the places themselves, the must-see destinations. Laos offers an incredible itinerary, but where should we start? Maybe the cultural heart, the UNESCO site?
They would absolutely be Luang Prabang. This is the former royal capital, and its setting is just stunning. It's right at the confluence where the mighty Mekong River meets the Namkon River.
It's not a huge city, is it?
No, it's not large, but it embodies that historical charm, that sense of peace, better than anywhere else in the country, arguably.
And it's known for its architecture, that specific blend.
Precisely. It's famous for that beautiful mix of traditional Lao temples of the Watts and these elegant French colonial buildings from the 19th and 20th centuries.
So European influence on top of ancient tradition.
Yeah, perfectly showcased.
Yeah.
The whole town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of that unique blend. It truly is a slow-paced city, just perfect for reflection. You could honestly spend days just wandering the streets, looking at the architecture, enjoying the atmosphere along the riverbanks.
Sounds idyllic. But beyond just wandering, what are the absolute must-do experiences there? Is there a defining ritual for the city?
Oh, absolutely. You must experience the Takbat.
Takbat.
It's the daily sunrise ritual where monks walk through the streets receiving alms, usually sticky rice, from locals and sometimes visitors. It's a really profound, very spiritual sight.
But I imagine etiquette is crucial there.
Critical. If you choose just to observe, you absolutely must maintain a respectful distance. Don't get in the monk's way. Don't use flash photography if you decide to participate by giving alms.
Which you can do.
Yes, but you need to prepare. You should purchase the sticky rice, the alms, ahead of time. Dress very modestly, kneel respectfully as the monks approach,
Right.
and never, under any circumstances, make physical contact with the monks. Especially if you're a woman. Physical contact is strictly forbidden. It's a quiet, deeply revered ceremony that really epitomizes the city's spiritual identity.
That detail on etiquette is incredibly helpful, thank you. What about other key sites in Luang Prabang?
Well, definitely visit the Royal Palace, which is now the National Museum. It offers great insight into the last Lao monarchy before the revolution.
Okay.
And then just a short trip outside the city, you absolutely cannot miss the Guangxi waterfalls.
Ah, yes, the famous ones.
They are famous for a reason.
Yeah.
These aren't just standard waterfalls. They're these incredible tiered cascades flowing into dozens of dazzling turquoise limestone pools. And the best part,
Yeah.
many of them are perfectly safe and wonderful for swimming.
Wow.
They are probably the most photographed natural site in the entire country. Absolutely stunning.
Okay, Guangxi Falls, noted. Let's shift now to the capital, Vientiane. It often seems a bit overshadowed by Luang Prabang, maybe even Bangkok next door, but our sources describe it as the relaxed capital. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
A relaxed capital city.
It really is, surprisingly so. It is the capital, yes, but it completely lacks that frenetic, high-octane energy you find in Bangkok or Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City.
Where is it situated?
It sits right on the banks of the Mekong River, very close to the Thai border. There's actually a bridge connecting it to Thailand there. And while it's the most cosmopolitan city in Laos, it definitely maintains a gentler, slower pace overall. It probably has the best and most diverse culinary scene and the highest concentration of modern amenities.
So a bit more development, but still chill. What are the signature sites there?
The absolute national symbol is Phak, that Luang the Great Stupa. It's this massive gold-covered Buddhist stupa, incredibly impressive, and one of the most important religious monuments in all of Laos. You should also visit the Patukse Monument. It's often called the Victory Gate. It looks a bit like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and you can climb to the top for a panoramic view of the city.
Like Laos's Arc de Triomphe.
Kind of, yeah. And finally, it's worth the short trip just outside the city center to see Buddha Park, or Jingquan.
Buddha Park? What's that?
It's this slightly surreal sculpture garden. It features hundreds of Buddhist and Hindu statues, some quite large and fantastical. They were built back in the 1950s by a monk who was apparently trying to integrate the two faiths. It's quirky, but very photogenic.
Interesting. Okay, shifting gears now from culture towards more, maybe, raw adventure. We have to talk about Vang Vieng. This is a place that had a very specific, and let's be honest, somewhat dark reputation maybe a decade or so ago.
Oh, definitely. It had a notorious reputation.
How is it transformed? Because the story now is quite different.
Vang Vieng's location is stunning. It's situated right on the Nam Song River, surrounded by these immense dramatic limestone karsts, these big mountains.
Beautiful setting.
It's an incredible setting. But its history is a fascinating and cautionary tale of tourism development and government intervention. Before, say, 2012, it was infamous. It was a major hedonistic party destination, known for things like unregulated river tubing with riverside bars serving potent drinks, drug availability. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And dangerous, right? There were accidents.
Tragically, yes. There were numerous accidents and fatalities which eventually led to a major cultural backlash and government crackdown. They essentially shut down the most dangerous and destructive parts of the party scene, forcing the town to completely reinvent itself.
So what is Vang Vieng today? What's the vibe now?
Today, it's repositioned itself as a premier outdoor adventure hub. While you can still enjoy tubing or kayaking down the river, it's much more regulated now. The focus has shifted almost entirely to ecotourism and appreciating the natural landscape.
Like what kind of activities?
Things like exploring the vast cave systems. Tampukum, the Blue Lagoon Cave, is very popular. Hiking up to stunning viewpoints for sunrise or sunset. Taking hot air balloon rides over those incredible karst landscapes. The views are just phenomenal.
Wow, hot air balloons.
Yeah. And the infrastructure has changed too. It now supports more boutique hotels, high-end restaurants. It attracts more responsible, nature-focused kind of traveler now. It's actually a really stunning example of a successful tourism cleanup and rebranding effort.
That's great to hear. Okay, so the north has the culture of Luang Prabang and the adventure of Vang Vieng. What about southern Laos? It seems like that's where you find the ultimate chill factor, especially when people talk about the 4,000 islands.
Phi Phan, yes. That's the Lao name. It's this incredible archipelago that forms where the Mekong River broadens out dramatically, right near the Cambodian border.
4,000 islands.
Right. Well, maybe not quite 4,000 actual islands you can visit, but it's a vast network of islands, islets, and sandbars. And the vibe, it is profoundly laid back, just incredibly chill. It's beloved by budget travelers, backpackers, anyone seeking that genuinely relaxed, almost island-style living. Just without the ocean.
Okay, sources mention 3 key islands usually. What's the difference between them? Can you break that down?
Sure. The most famous, especially for younger travelers, is probably Don Det.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as the backpacker hub. It's full of affordable riverside bungalows, cheap places to eat, a youthful vibe, maybe still a bit of a party-adjacent feel in places, but overall still very slow-moving compared to somewhere like Vang Vieng used to be.
Okay, Don Det for backpackers. What else?
Then there's Don Con. It's connected to Don Det by an old French colonial railway bridge, which is kind of cool in itself. Don Con is known more for its waterfalls. It's a bit quieter, maybe has slightly more established guest houses than Don Det.
And the third one?
That's Don Kong. It's the largest island in the archipelago and generally the most developed in terms of infrastructure. You'll find a better selection of slightly higher-end hotels there, and it has a quieter, more local atmosphere compared to Don Det.
Got it. And the main natural site down there, besides the islands themselves, is geological, isn't it? Something about waterfalls.
Absolutely. You have to make the effort to see the Con Phe Falls. Now, these aren't super high like Quang Si up north. Their significance is their sheer volume and width.
How big are we talking?
They're the largest waterfalls by volume in all of Southeast Asia. The Mekong River just thunders over this series of rapids and cascades. It's a really colossal, powerful natural spectacle.
Wow, and there's a unique wildlife possibility down there too.
Yes, potentially. This area, Si Phan Don, is one of the last places in the world where you might spot the critically endangered Irrawaddy dolphins. They are freshwater dolphins. Sightings are unfortunately rare these days, but the possibility exists, which adds a bit of magic to the place.
Okay. For the truly independent traveler, the kind who wants to get off the main track, sources highly recommend 2 specific circuits, usually done by motorbike.
Yes, the motorbike loops are legendary for experiencing the real Laos. The first one is the Sakek Loop.
Sakek Loop, where's that?
It starts and ends in the town of Thakek, which is in central Laos. It's about a 450-kilometer or roughly 280-mile scenic route. It definitely demands several days, maybe 4 or 5, to do it properly.
And what kind of landscape does it cover?
It takes you through these incredible landscapes, steep mountains, vast limestone forests dotted with caves, past cool natural springs where you can swim. It really requires a confident motorbike rider, The roads can be challenging in parts, but the rewards, the views, the experiences, they're incredible.
And is there one absolute highlight of that loop that people talk about?
Oh yes, the undisputed jewel of the Sakek Loop is the Konglor River Cave. Tom Konglo?
A cave.
Not just any cave. It's a subterranean river passage that runs for about 7 kilometers, that's over 4 miles long, right through a massive limestone mountain.
And how do you explore it?
You explore it by hiring a local boatman with a motorized dugout canoe. You float through this immense cavern system, often in pitch-black darkness, illuminated only by your guide's headlamp. You have to duck under stalactites.
Yeah.
It is genuinely breathtaking, a truly unique, almost otherworldly experience. There's really nothing else quite like it.
Wow, that sounds unforgettable. Okay, and the other main loop, further south?
That would be the Bullhaven Plateau.
Bullhaven Plateau. What's that known for?
It's essentially a high-elevation, relatively flat, volcanic tableland in southern Laos. It's famous primarily for 2 things: coffee and waterfalls.
Coffee?
Yes, some of the best coffee beans in Southeast Asia are grown here, thanks to the fertile volcanic soil and altitude. You can visit coffee plantations, learn about the process, and of course sample some amazing brews.
And the waterfalls.
Magnificent waterfalls, including Tad Phane, which is arguably the highest waterfall in the country, plunging dramatically into a deep gorge. The plateau is ideal for multi-day exploration, again, usually by motorbike, mixing stunning nature with visits to authentic local villages and those coffee farms.
Okay, fantastic options for the adventurous. Before we leave the sites, though, we absolutely must address what sounds like the most significant historical and archaeological site in Laos, but one that comes with a very serious warning: the Plain of Jars.
Yes, near the town of Vang Vieng in Luang Province. This is the UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's extraordinary and sobering.
What is it exactly?
It's a huge prehistoric archaeological landscape featuring thousands, literally thousands of large ancient stone jars scattered across dozens of sites. Some are small, some are massive, weighing several tons.
And what were they for? Do we know?
That's the mystery that persists. Archaeologists generally believe they're linked to Iron Age burial practices, maybe dating somewhere between 500 BC and 200 AD, perhaps used as urns or for secondary burials. But their true exact purpose is still debated.
Okay, a mysterious ancient site, but the warning associated with it is non-negotiable, correct?
Absolutely non-negotiable. The surrounding area, Xinjiang province, particularly around Vang Vieng, was intensely, horrifically bombed during the Second Indochina War, the Vietnam War era.
More heavily bombed, though.
Laos holds the tragic, grim distinction of being the most heavily bombed country per capita in human history. And a huge amount of that ordnance fell on this region.
And much of it didn't explode.
Exactly. Unexploded ordnance, or UXO, remains a severe, deadly danger in the countryside around the Plain of Jars sites. This is why visitors must stay strictly, without any exception, on the marked, cleared trails and paths within the designated jar sites.
No wandering off into the fields?
Absolutely not. Straying off the marked path is highly dangerous and potentially fatal. This cannot be stressed enough. It's a critical safety point when visiting this otherwise fascinating site.
Understood. A very important warning. Okay, we've covered the geography, the culture clash, the amazing sights from north to south. Now let's dive into the how to interact respectfully, how to navigate daily life, and maybe what fuel powers this peaceful nation. Let's talk Laotian etiquette and food.
Right. As we established with Bop and Yang, Laos is inherently reserved and polite. So when it comes to things like modesty, travelers really need to be mindful.
For example?
Well, while swimming areas like Kwangsi Falls or lagoons near Vang Vieng allow for swimwear, walking around villages, towns, or especially temples in just a bikini, or for men, shirtless, is really not acceptable. It's seen as disrespectful. Covering up outside of designated swimming spots is just basic courtesy.
Okay, cover up. What about public displays of affection, hand-holding, kissing?
You just don't see it among locals. It's very uncommon. So, visitors should avoid overt kissing or excessive hand-holding in public. It's generally viewed as inappropriate, a bit intrusive in their culture. Maintaining a respectful demeanor is the norm.
Got it. Let's talk about respect in sacred spaces or homes, which must be deeply linked to that Buddhist faith you mentioned.
Absolutely. 2 key rules here. First, always remove your shoes before entering any temple complex, any wat, and also before entering someone's private house. It's a universal sign of respect.
Okay, shoes off. And inside temples?
Inside temples, modesty is paramount. Women must cover their shoulders, no tank tops or spaghetti straps, and wear long pants or skirts that go below the knee. Men should also avoid sleeveless shirts. It's simply about recognizing the sanctity of the space you're entering.
Right. And there are those two very specific, almost universal body language rules that apply here and really across much of Southeast Asia, but they always bear repeating for Laos.
Yes, definitely. Rule number 1, never ever touch a person's head.
Why is that?
The head is considered the highest, most sacred part of the body in Buddhist culture. Touching someone's head, even a child affectionately, is considered highly offensive.
Okay, no head touching. Rule 2.
Rule 2, never point your feet directly toward anyone, especially towards monks, elders, or religious images like Buddha statues.
Because the feet are.
The feet are considered the lowest and potentially dirtiest part of the body. So when sitting, especially on the floor, you should keep your feet tucked under you or pointed away from others. It's a subtle thing, but important for showing respect.
Good reminders. And that concept of losing face we talked about with Bop and Yang, it extends beyond just customer service interactions, right? Like in traffic.
It absolutely does. When driving or even just dealing with any kind of minor road interaction showing aggression, road rage, or constantly unnecessarily honking your horn, it's seen as extremely rude. It's a guaranteed way to lose face.
So no leaning on the horn out of impatience.
Definitely not. Road users are generally quite polite. They tend to use the horn only when genuinely necessary for safety warnings, like maybe rounding a blind corner. Otherwise, it's patience, smiles, and using the standard polite greeting, the nop, which is placing your palms together in a prayer-like gesture.
Be patient, smile. Nope. Got it. Okay, let's pivot from conduct to cuisine. Laotian food. It's maybe not as globally famous as Thai or Vietnamese.
That's not yet.
But sources say it's known for its intensity? Is that the right word?
That is the perfect word. Laotian cuisine is distinct. It's defined by really intense flavors, a heavy reliance on fresh herbs, mint, coriander, dill, and often, pretty potent levels of spice. It also utilizes strong fermented elements, which can be challenging for some palates, but deeply rewarding if you're adventurous.
Okay, where do we start? What is the absolute foundation of the Laotian diet?
Without a doubt, sticky rice, khao niao.
Sticky rice.
It is the national staple. Laos actually has the highest per capita consumption of sticky rice in the world. It's not just a side dish, it's central. It is mandatory to try this.
How is it eaten?
It's eaten with almost everything, savory or sweet. Traditionally, you eat it with your right hand. You take a small clump, roll it into a manageable ball, and then use that to dip into other dishes or scoop things up.
Okay, sticky rice is essential. What about the national dish? Is there one signature dish?
Yes, that would be lape, sometimes spelled L-A-R-B, larb.
Lop. What is it?
It's essentially a minced meat salad. It can be made with chicken, fish, duck, pork, sometimes beef. The meat is finely minced and then mixed with a potent dressing of lime juice, fish sauce, chili, ground roasted sticky rice for texture, and a load of fresh herbs like mint and coriander. It's incredibly fragrant, savory, tangy, spicy. It hits all the notes.
Sounds delicious. And then there's the papaya salad debate.
Ah, yes, the Tam Mak Hung debate.
Is it Lao or Thai?
Well, while green papaya salad is globally famous, largely thanks to Thailand, many food historians, and certainly the Lao people themselves, assert that it actually originated in Laos.
And is the Lao version different?
Oh, yes. The Lao version, Tam Mak Hung, is often far more potent and traditionally much spicier than the typical Thai version som tam you might get elsewhere. The key difference is the inclusion of padak.
Padak.
It's a type of unfiltered fermented fish sauce, sometimes with chunks of fish in it. It gives the Lao papaya salad a much deeper, funkier umami flavor that really differentiates it from the often sweeter, sometimes peanut-heavy Thai version. Prepare for a flavor bomb.
Okay, noted. Funkier and spicier. Beyond those staples, sticky rice, lap, papaya salad, what else should a traveler look for, maybe at the night markets?
Definitely seek out Lao sausage, often called Thai ua or Lao Pang sausage. It's a wonderful mix of coarsely minced pork packed with herbs like lemongrass and galangal and spices. It's often grilled right there on the street. Delicious.
Sounds good.
Barbecue meat in general from the market's grilled chicken. Pork skewers is always a safe, cheap, and tasty bet. And then, yes, for the very adventurous eaters, you might encounter things like raw duck, or pork blood salads, or soups made with intestines or bile. These are definitely acquired tastes. But don't worry, especially in tourist centers, Western food and less challenging local options are also widely available if the really traditional stuff isn't for you.
Good to know there are options. Let's quickly address the challenge for vegetarian or vegan travelers. Sources seem to indicate the experience is a bit of a tale of two countries in Laos.
That is precisely correct. It depends heavily on where you are.
So where is it easier?
If you stick to the main tourist hubs, Vientiane, Luang Prabang, Vang Vieng, Maybe even down in the 4,000 islands, finding dedicated vegetarian or vegan restaurants, or at least dishes clearly labeled J, which means vegetarian vegan in this context, is relatively easy these days. There's enough international influence and awareness to support it.
Okay, tourist areas are manageable, but what happens when you venture off that main path, say into more rural areas, or especially the far north near the China border?
It becomes a significant struggle, a real challenge. In many remote provinces, the local diet revolves heavily around meat, often buffalo meat up north, and almost everything, even vegetable dishes, is typically prepared with fish sauce, nampa, or that fermented padak.
So even things that look like just vegetables might not be.
Exactly. Seemingly vegetable-only dishes might be cooked in animal fat, lard, or contain hidden meat stock or shrimp paste. Finding something truly free of all animal products can be very difficult.
So what's the advice for strict vegetarians or vegans traveling remotely?
You absolutely must learn the necessary Lao phrases. Specifically, how to clearly request no meat, bao sin, no fish sauce, base nampa, no oyster sauce, base nam manhoi, and maybe even no padaik, base madaik. And even then, be prepared for potential misunderstandings and maybe rely heavily on plain sticky rice, fresh fruit, and simple market vegetables you can identify yourself. Pack snacks.
Okay, crucial advice there for plant-based travelers. Right, we are moving into the final, really crucial section for anyone planning a trip. Part 5, the essential logistics. We're talking when to go, money strategy, getting around.
Yeah, the practical stuff. And timing your visit to Laos is absolutely paramount because the weather doesn't just affect your comfort, it significantly affects safety and travel time, especially if you're using roads.
So when is the absolute best time to visit?
The consensus is the cool and dry season, which generally runs from about October through to April.
Okay, that's quite a long window. Is there a sweet spot within that?
Yes. If you want the ideal combination of comfortable temperatures and the most spectacular natural beauty, you should probably zero in on the period right after the main rainy season ends.
Which would be?
Roughly October to December. During these months, the weather is usually stable and pleasant warm days, cooler nights. And crucially, the magnificent waterfalls, like Guangxi we talked about, and Khon Phe down south, are at their absolute peak flow from all the monsoon rain. The landscape is incredibly lush, green, and vibrant.
Sounds perfect. Does this period also align with any major cultural events?
It can, yes. Keep an eye out for the Baonak Fanza, which is the traditional end of Buddhist Lent or Light Festival. It's usually held in October, depending on the lunar calendar. Luang Prabang is arguably the best place to witness it, with beautiful illuminated boat processions on the Mekong and lantern releases.
Okay. And later in the dry season?
If you don't mind potentially getting very wet and joining in some joyful chaos, the lively water-splashing Lao New Year Festival, Pai Mai Lao, is celebrated over several days in mid-April.
Fun, but maybe prepare to be soaked. Now, for the critical warning, sources strongly discourage visiting during the later part of that dry season, specifically March and April. Why is that?
Two main reasons. Firstly, March and April are the hottest months of the year. Temperatures can easily soar past 40 degrees Celsius, which is over 104 Fahrenheit. It can be brutally hot and humid.
Okay, extreme heat. What's the other reason?
The other, and arguably more significant, hazard is the burning season.
Burning season.
Yes. This is the time when farmers, particularly in northern Laos, but also elsewhere, practice slash-and-burn agriculture to clear land for planting. This creates widespread smoke and haze.
How bad does it get?
It can get really bad. We're talking about air quality index, AQI, levels that are frequently in the unhealthy or even hazardous ranges, often spiking well above 200 or 300 in some areas. This severely impacts breathing, visibility, and just general health and well-being.
Wow, that sounds like it would completely ruin the very reason many people visit Laos, those stunning natural views and landscapes.
It absolutely does. The visibility can be severely diminished by thick haze and smoke, especially in the mountainous regions of the north. Hiking becomes difficult, maybe even unhealthy, and those famous scenic viewpoints, they might just offer views of, well, smog.
Is it bad everywhere in the country then?
Northern Laos tends to be the worst affected. Southern and central Laos sometimes fare slightly better, maybe due to different terrain or wind patterns, allowing the smoke to dissipate more easily. But honestly, it's a time of year, particularly March and early April, that many experienced travelers strongly recommend avoiding if possible, especially if you have respiratory issues or just want to see the country at its best.
Okay, very clear warning there about the burning season. Let's switch to entry, logistics, and money. How does the visa situation usually work?
For many nationalities, it's relatively straightforward with visa on arrival, VOA. available at major airports and land border crossings. The cost is typically around $40 USD, payable in cash.
Any tips for that process?
Yes, absolutely critical. Carry crisp, clean, unmarked U.S. dollar notes. They can be very picky about the condition of the bills. Torn or heavily marked notes might be rejected.
Seriously?
Yes. And ideally, try to have the exact amount. You'll also need a passport-size photo. If you don't have one, they could usually take one there for a small fee. Having everything ready just avoids delays and potential hassles, like being forced to use an unfavorable exchange rate into Thai baht if you don't have USD.
Good tip. Once inside, the currency is the Lao kip, the LAK. What's the strategy there, given you mentioned it's not a very strong currency?
Right, the LAK has experienced significant inflation and isn't very strong internationally. This leads to a key piece of practical advice. Avoid overexchanging your home currency into kip.
Why is that?
Because if you end up with a large amount of surplus kip at the end of your trip and try to convert it back into dollars or euros or whatever, you will inevitably lose a significant amount of money on the poor exchange rate you'll be offered. Exchange rates for selling kip back are generally terrible.
So the strategy is?
Only exchange what you reasonably expect to need for the next few days at a time. Don't change hundreds of dollars into kip all at once unless you're absolutely sure you'll spend it.
Okay. And accessing that kip, ATMs are the way to go.
Yes, ATMs are widely available in cities and towns. However, there's another quirk here. The withdrawal limits.
Low limits.
Notoriously low, while the ATM fees themselves are usually quite cheap, maybe around 20,000 to 30,000 kip, which is roughly $1 USD per transaction. The maximum amount you can withdraw per transaction is typically capped quite low, often around 2 million kip, sometimes even less.
And 2 million kip is?
Currently, that's less than $100 USD. So if you need a larger amount of cash, you might find yourself making multiple withdrawals and paying multiple fees. It's just something to be aware of. Stick to known, reputable banks like BCEL or JDB for reliability.
Good to know. Frequent small withdrawals. Despite these little logistical challenges, Laos is famously affordable, right? What kind of budget are we talking?
Extremely affordable, yes. It's still one of the cheapest countries to travel in Southeast Asia. A budget traveler who's happy staying in dorms and eating primarily local food can easily get by on, say, $15 to $20 USD a day. Maybe even less in some areas.
Wow, that's cheap. What about accommodation costs?
Dorm beds and hostels usually run around 65,000 to 80,000 kip, which is roughly 3 to 4 USD currently. A basic private room in a guest house might be around 150,000 kip, maybe $7 USD. Accommodation is generally slightly higher in the main centers like Vientiane and Luang Prabang, but still very cheap by international standards.
And food costs.
Street food is incredibly cheap. You can get a good bowl of noodle soup or a plate of rice for around 22,000 kip, about $1 USD. A proper meal in a simple local restaurant might be 2 to 3 USD. Western meals in tourist restaurants are obviously more expensive, maybe around $5 to $10 USD, but still very reasonable.
Okay. And let's just reiterate that top-tier money-saving and cultural tip for ordering drinks again.
Yes, absolutely essential. When you order any fruit shake, iced coffee, tea, or even some desserts, which are widely available and often delicious if you don't want it to be incredibly, almost sickly, sweet.
Which is the default.
Which is usually the default. Yes, they add a lot of sugar syrup or sweetened condensed milk. You absolutely must preemptively say bosenam tan, or simply bosenam.
Meaning no sugar.
Exactly, no sugar, or at least less sugar. Otherwise, just be prepared for a major sugar rush. It's a simple phrase that makes a huge difference.
Bosainam. Got it. Okay. Moving on to transportation within Laos. The choice now seems to be increasingly between modern efficiency and traditional economy, right?
That's a good way to put it. The Lao-China Railway, despite that slightly complex booking process we discussed, is now undoubtedly the most comfortable, reliable, and fastest way to travel along that main tourist spine. Vientiane, Vang Vieng, Luang Prabang.
So if speed and comfort are priorities...
It's the preferred option, definitely. It cuts down travel times dramatically compared to the roads.
But the classic Southeast Asian budget option, the buses and minivans, they still exist for those wanting the absolute cheapest price. Yeah.
Oh, they absolutely do. They connect pretty much everywhere and are still the cheapest way to get around. A typical 4 to 6 hour bus or minivan journey might cost somewhere between 80,000 to 130,000 kip, so maybe $4 to $6 USD. Very cheap.
But what's the catch?
The catch is, well, Lao time applies, so schedules can be flexible. And more significantly, the condition of the roads outside the new main highway system can still be quite poor. Journeys by bus can be rough, bumpy, slow, and often delayed due to the mountainous terrain, potential landslides in rainy season, or just general road conditions.
What about sleeper buses for longer routes? Are they a good option?
They are available for long overnight routes, like maybe from Vientiane down south. However, our sources consistently include warnings about them. Navigating those extremely winding, narrow mountain roads at night in a large bus, it can feel genuinely dangerous to some travelers. Safety standards might not always be what you're used to, so exercise caution and maybe choose daytime travel if you're nervous.
Okay, noted. Given those road warnings, how should a traveler approach the idea of self-driving? Especially for those amazing loops you mentioned earlier, like Thakek or the Bolivan Plateau, which are often done by motorbike.
Right. For experienced, confident motorbike riders, renting a bike and doing one of these loops is arguably the best way to see the real rural Laos. It offers incredible freedom, allows you to stop wherever you want, find those hidden waterfalls or villages. It's a fantastic experience.
There's always a but.
But, and this is huge, but we must be extremely clear on the safety warning. Roads outside the main tourist corridors and highways are often in poor condition. You'll encounter plot holes, loose gravel, unpaved sections, sharp bends, and potentially surprise landslides, especially after rain.
And other traffic.
Traffic hazards include large, sometimes fast-moving trucks that take up the whole road, buses driving erratically, and livestock, cows, goats, chickens wandering onto the road without warning.
So, the recommendation is?
Only confident, experienced motorbike riders, people who are comfortable handling challenging road conditions and possess good defensive driving skills, should attempt the rural self-drive routes. And absolutely make sure you have appropriate travel insurance that covers motorbike accidents and medical evacuation. For everyone else, stick to the railway or established bus routes between major towns. It's just safer.
Okay, very sensible advice. A final quick note on internal transport, river travel. The Mekong has always been the lifeblood of Laos. Is boat travel still a major way to get around?
It's less central than it used to be, primarily due to dam construction. Yes, the construction of several large hydroelectric dams on both the Mekong River itself and major tributaries like the Nam U River, mostly since around 2017, has significantly impacted traditional boat routes and water levels.
So some routes are no longer possible?
Some have become impossible or severely restricted, while the classic scenic 2-day slow boat journey from Huai Kai near the Thai border down the Mekong to Luang Prabang still operates and is popular.
Okay.
Many other routes have changed. For example, traveling by boat from Luang Prabang further north up the Nam U River towards places like Nong Kia or Muang Goi used to be standard. Now, due to the dams, it's often much easier, faster, and more reliable to take a bus for that section.
Interesting. So the railway and improved roads are replacing some river routes.
To some extent, yes. The rivers remain vital for local life and transport, of course, but their role for major long-distance tourist travel has diminished somewhat compared to the past. Always check locally for current boat options and viability.
Right. Good advice. That brings us logically to our final discussion area. Overall safety, health considerations, and maybe tying it all together with an overarching travel strategy needed for success in Laos.
Okay, first off, let's reiterate safety from crime. Laos is generally considered inherently safe in terms of violent crime against tourists. It is rare.
So the main concern is petty crime.
Your primary concern should be standard vigilance against opportunistic crime, mainly pickpocketing or bag snatching. Be especially aware in crowded places like night markets, bus stations, or on-packed public transport. Just use common sense, keep valuables secure.
But as we've discussed, the real dangers seem to be more environmental or infrastructural.
Yes, exactly. The road conditions we talked about are probably the single biggest physical hazard for travelers, requiring extreme caution, particularly if you decide to rent a scooter, even just locally. And secondly, we absolutely must reiterate the threat of UXO unexploded ordnance, especially if you travel to areas like the Plain of Jars or other regions heavily affected by the bombing during the war.
Yeah.
Stay on marked trails. Without exception, respect the very real danger inherent in the landscape in those specific areas.
Okay. What about health? If something does go wrong, what's the medical infrastructure like?
It is, frankly, basic outside the main cities. Vientiane and Luang Prabang have the best-equipped hospitals and clinics, some with international affiliations, but even these are generally not up to the standards you might find in, say, Bangkok or Singapore.
So for anything serious?
For any serious medical emergency or complex procedure, the universally recommended strategy is to arrange immediate transport, usually by air evacuation, to a better-equipped hospital in neighboring Thailand, most often Bangkok or Udon Thani,
Bridge.
which means comprehensive travel insurance that specifically covers medical evacuation is absolutely essential. Do not travel to Laos without it.
Understood. Essential insurance. And what about common tropical illnesses, mosquito-borne diseases?
Malaria risk is generally considered low for the typical tourist sticking to the main cities and travel routes. It's mostly confined to specific, deep, rural, forested provinces, often near borders. Standard precautions are usually sufficient for most travelers.
But dengue fever.
Dengue fever, however, is absolutely present throughout the country, including in cities. It's transmitted by mosquitoes that bite primarily during the daytime, especially around dawn and dusk. Risk increases during and immediately after the rainy season when mosquito populations boom.
So prevention is key.
Absolutely. Use potent insect repellent containing DI or picaridin diligently. Wear long sleeves and trousers when possible, especially during peak biting times. And consider staying in accommodation with screened windows or using a mosquito net if necessary.
Okay. One last logistical point. We need to address the national social rhythm, specifically the midnight curfew. Is that still a thing?
Yes. Laos technically maintains a national midnight curfew. Now, how strictly it's enforced can vary. In major tourist hotspots like Vientiane, Vang Vieng, or maybe parts of the 4,000 Islands, you'll certainly find bars or restaurants that stay open later, catering to tourists.
But generally,
Speaking, most establishments across the country, local bars, restaurants, shops, do tend to close their doors around midnight or even earlier. The streets become very quiet very quickly after that. Travelers should just anticipate a generally early closing time for most things compared to, say, Thailand. Don't expect roaring all-night parties outside of very specific tourist bubbles.
it really sounds like the absolute key mistake a traveler can make in Laos is underestimating the size of the country, the time it takes to get around, and just the general level of patience required.
Rushing. Rushing is the single biggest mistake you can make. Laos is geographically quite extensive, it's mountainous, and travel time, even with the improvements like the railway, still requires patience and buffer time.
And if you try to cram too much in,
You will only experience frustration. You'll end up stressed, annoyed when things don't run like clockwork, and you'll be violating that whole bop and yang ethos we talked about. You won't enjoy it.
so how much time is realistic? If a traveler only has, say, 1 week, what should their strategy be?
With only 1 week, you really need to be focused. Stick strictly to the main tourist spine, probably just Luang Prabang and Vang Vieng. These two are relatively close and now well connected by the fast railway, allowing you to move efficiently between the cultural highlight and the adventure hub without undue travel stress. Maybe fly into one and out of the other.
Okay, 1 week, Luang Prabang plus Vang Vieng. What about wanting to experience more? To really appreciate the north, central Laos with the Pha Kek Loop maybe, and the south with the 4,000 Islands.
To see that full range comfortably, to properly experience the cultural north, do a motorbike loop in the center, and chill out on the islands in the south. You need at least 3 weeks. Realistically, probably more like 4.
3 weeks minimum for the highlights.
Yes. That allows you enough time to actually embrace the slower travel times between regions, to spend several days doing a loop, to relax properly down south, and not feel like you're constantly rushing from one place to the next. The key is to allow the country to set your pace, not the other way around.
That seems like a perfect summary. This deep dive into Laos really highlights a country in fascinating transition, doesn't it? Caught beautifully between its ancient, reserved, yet incredibly friendly and gentle culture, symbolized by that wonderful image of the million elephants, and this new age of rapid connectivity, often driven by foreign investment like the railway.
Absolutely. That tension, that interplay between the speed of the modern world encroaching and the deeply ingrained cultural preference for harmony and patience embodied by Bop and Yang Yang. That is precisely what defines the travel experience in Laos today.
And it creates a unique proposition for the traveler.
It really does.
Yeah.
It guarantees, or usually guarantees, genuine warmth, a feeling of safety, and authentic interactions. But simultaneously, it demands deep flexibility, understanding, and above all, patience from the visitor. It's almost like a reciprocal agreement. Laos offers you its peace, and in return, you need to offer Laos your time and your willingness to slow down.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Maybe planning your own future explorations or just learning about the world?
Well, think about it. The world we live in is increasingly obsessed with speed, efficiency, optimization, packing more in. Laos offers this profound counter-narrative. It almost insists that slowing down isn't just pleasant. It might be the only way to truly live, and certainly the only way to truly travel and understand a place like this.
A different way of being.
So, consider this as a final thought. What essential knowledge, what perspective, what insight might you be missing in your own life simply because you refuse or feel unable to let go of your own self-imposed schedule and constant rush? By choosing to embrace Lao time, even just for a little while, you don't just see a country, you potentially engage with a fundamentally different philosophy of existence.
That's a powerful thought. So perhaps take the time to research the magnificent cultural history of Lanjiang Hom Look into those complex but navigable logistics of the Lao-China high-speed train if you're planning a trip. And most importantly, prepare to let Laos maybe change your pace rather than trying to impose yours on it.
Well said.
Until the next deep dive, travel safely, travel curiously, and maybe, just maybe, travel patiently.